On today's episode of Women of War podcast, we'll be talking about Emmaline Pankhurst, a pioneering force in women's rights and war effort. I hope you enjoy. Emmaline Pankhurst, born Emmaline Golden on July 15, 1858 in Manchester, England, was a pivotal figure in British suffrage movement. Her upbringing in a politically active family ingrained in her the values of social justice and activism. Her parents, Robert and Sophia, were advocates for women's rights and social reform, influencing young Emmaline's worldviews. She attended École Normale Supérieure in Paris, which furthered her education and broadened her perspectives on social issues. In 1879, Emmaline married Richard Pankhurst, a barrister, or as we know, a lawyer, known for supporting women's suffrage. Together they had 5 children: Criswell, Sylvia, Adele, Frank, and Henry Francis. Despite her responsibilities as a mother, Emmaline remained deeply involved in political activism. Her work with various organizations that aimed to secure voting rights for women. Many of her children followed in their activist footsteps. Richard's legal work, including drafting the first women's suffrage bill in 1869 and the Married Women's Property Act of 1882, further inspired Emmaline's activism. Richard's untimely death in 1898 left Emmaline to carry on their shared vision. In 1903, she founded the Women's Social and Political Union, or WSPU, an organization dedicated to deeds, not words. Distinguished itself with a more militant approach compared to other suffrage groups. Emmaline grew incredibly frustrated with the slow progress of women's suffrage movement through the conventional political means, which is why she did the WSPU. Under Emmaline's leadership, the WSPU adopted confrontational tactics, including public demonstrations, hunger strikes, and civil disobedience. These methods often held to violent clashes with the authorities and numerous arrests. Emmaline herself was arrested multiple times, enduring harsh prison conditions and force feeding during hunger strikes. These sacrifices highlighted the severe injustice women faced and brought significant public attention to their cause. Many people spoke out against Pankhurst's family in 1913. Several prominent individuals left the WSPU, among them Pankhurst's younger daughters, Adele and Sylvia. Emmaline was so furious that she gave Adele a ticket, £20, and a letter of introduction to a suffrage movement in Australia, and firmly insisted that she emigrated. Adele complied, and the family rift was never healed, while Sylvia became a socialist. With the outbreak of World War I in 1914, Pankhurst made the strategic decision to shift the WSPU's focus towards supporting the war effort. She believed that demonstrating women's patriotism and capability in times of national crisis would strengthen their case for suffrage. The WSPU suspended its militant activities and encouraged women to take on roles traditionally held by men, such as working in factories, serving as nurses, and filling various positions in political service and public service. Pankhurst herself was instrumental in organizing and mobilizing women for the war effort. She established the Women's Party in 1917, advocating for women's involvement in post-war reconstruction and pushing for policies like equal pay and family allowance. Her efforts during the war showcased women's ability to contribute significantly to society beyond domestic roles. Emmaline's wartime efforts paid off when the Representation of the People Act of 1918 granted voting rights to women over 30 who met minimum property qualifications. Although this was not full suffrage, it marked a significant victory and a step towards equality. Emmaline continued to campaign for full voting rights, which were eventually granted to all women over 21 in 1928, shortly before her death. In later years, Pankhurst continued to be politically active, focusing on issues such as child welfare and advocating for better living conditions for women and children. She moved to Canada for a brief period, but returned to Britain in the late 1920s. Emmaline died on June 14, 1928, leaving behind a legacy of unwavering determination and profound impact on women's rights. Her militant tactics, though controversial, were instrumental in achieving significant milestones for women's suffrage in the UK. Here are some interesting facts. Emmaline and her daughters Christabel and Sylvia often found themselves at odds over the direction of the suffrage movement. Sylvia in particular disagreed with the WSPU's focus on upper and middle class women, advocating instead for working class women's rights. There was also the Cat and Mouse Act of 1913, which was specifically designed to deal with hunger striking like what Pankhurst did. It allowed for the temporary release of prisoners who were dangerously weak from hunger striking, only to rearrest them once they had recovered. Another one is, despite her militant stance, Pankhurst was a devoted mother. Her personal letters revealed a woman deeply concerned for the welfare and education of her children. And lastly, and my favorite, in 1926, she ran for Parliament as a Conservative candidate, a surprising shift given her radical past. This move underscored her evolving political views and her continued commitment to women's rights within the existing political system. Emmaline's life was a testament to the power of resilience and conviction in the face of societal barriers. Her contributions to the suffrage movement and her strategic pivot during World War I significantly advocated women's rights in Britain. Pankhurst's legacy continued to inspire advocates worldwide, reminding us that enduring change often requires both relentless activism and strategic adaptability. Well, I hope you all had a wonderful time listening to this powerful woman who changed the world that she lived in. And if you have any questions or comments, please leave those below. And I hope y'all have a wonderful day. I'll see y'all next week. Hey everyone, and welcome to the Women of War podcast, where we dive into the untold stories of women's bravery, struggles, and resilience in the midst of conflict. I am your host, Megan, and together we'll explore the powerful narratives of women who've stood on the front lines, those who have been caught in the crossfires, and the lasting impact war has had on their lives. From ancient warriors to modern-day heroes, we'll uncover the roles women have played in shaping history throughout war and peace. So grab your headphones and let's embark on this journey to hear the voices of women who fought battles both seen and unseen. Get ready for an eye-opening experience on the Women of War podcast. This is Megan signing off with Women of Word Podcast. Don't forget to like, love, subscribe, comment, all those things. It really does help the podcast grow, and I would greatly appreciate it. Thank y'all.